let's get into some injury updates, and who better than to go straight to the source, right? The head coach of the Miami Dolphins, Mike McDaniel, spoke to the media and addressed a number of different pending, ongoing injuries, which is kind of an update, the way the old head coach does for the Aqua and Orange. And we'll start with the Roberts, or the Rob, starting with Robert Hunt and Rob Jones, both of them nursing some injuries right now. And I love how he calls them the Robs, but Mike McDaniel said, the Robs are both week to week. I want to see how they respond. Not quite in the day-to-day category as of yet. We're going to see how they respond today with practice. Had a good bye week of rehabilitation, and that's exactly what the bye week was for. And that Dolphins offensive line depth chart has been a game of musical chairs, 6 different starting combinations in 9 weeks. But Ron Armstead back and healthy. He spent some time on IR. He was injured in that game against the Bills, but he's back. His backup, Kendall Lamm, might be a guy that you see thrown into the mix at a different offensive line position, not just left tackle, with Isaiah Wynn on injured reserve right now, eligible to come back in Week 13. Connor Williams has missed some time, but he did play against the Chiefs and is back healthy after the bye week as well. And the update on both Robert Hunt and Robert Jones, week to week, so likely neither of them will be in action against the Raiders. That means Lester Cotton, perhaps the replacement for Robert Jones and Liam Eichenberg at that other guard position. So, with that said, let's dive a little bit further. And Mike McDaniel talking about Rob Hunt's hamstring injury, because that is what the injury is with Rob Hunt. Rob Jones is the knee injury. And sometimes I just say that for my own understanding, because all the Rob Jones, Rob Hunt, this injury, that injury, just to keep it all straight there for you. And Marcel Louis-Jacques, the ESPN beat writer for the Miami Dolphins, has this quote from Mike McDaniel saying, "We're not going to make this a more extensive injury. He's playing some of his best ball, and we need him to play his best ball down the stretch." Delicate process. Miami, once again, erring on the side of caution. We've seen that a number of times, and who are we to not necessarily agree with that decision to err on the side of caution? So Rob Hunt out, couple of different potential replacements. I mentioned Kendall Lamm, normally a tackle, but Lester Cotton also has filled in at that guard position, both left guard and right guard, really. And when you take a look at Lester Cotton's stats, at times he's been pretty good. 190 snaps, that Pro Football Focus grade, not the end-all be-all, hear me when I say that, but a good measuring stick, 59.1 overall grade. The pass blocking grade at 54, the run blocking grade a little bit better at 62.3, and that's overall. Now, Kendall Lamm, again, has played games at tackle. He filled in admirably when Teron Armstead was out, and because he's a versatile player, you can kind of entertain the thought of him filling in at guard. 432 snaps. He's been really, really good, especially as a pass blocker and protecting Tua Tagovailoa, and an overall grade of 65.1. So definitely some options to fill in at the other guard position with both Rob Hunt and Rob Jones, most likely out this week against the Raiders, as Mike McDaniel describes them as week to week as opposed to day to day. So when you start to speculate about what it'd be like for Kendall Lamm, the tackle, moving over to guard, Mike McDaniel was asked about exactly that, and here is what he had to say. What he brings to the team is versatility. Not every tackle can play both left and right. He does an exceptional job doing both for us. He does have that versatility to go inside, referring to moving from tackle inside to guard, which will be exercised. So I wouldn't expect him to see him sooner than later at the guard spot. However, he will be training there, and who knows? My crystal ball definitely doesn't on how soon we will see him inside or outside or wherever. The good news is he's up for the challenge. So I think at this point in the season, we've kind of gotten used to this from Mike McDaniel. He doesn't exactly give you the most clear answer, and it's not like he puts a timestamp on things, but just kind of, a little bit vague. But I think the overall SparkNotes version, the summary, the bottom line is Kendall Lamm's going to practice a little bit at the guard position as a potential fill-in there. And who knows, the Dolphins might exercise that option to have him as a left guard instead of playing left tackle like he had when Teron Armstead was injured. So you got to let me know in the comments if you had to pick a guard. Do you want Lester Cotton or Kendall Lamm? Type LC for Lester Cotton or KL for Kendall Lamm. Up next, we're going to talk a little bit more Dolphins injury news. We got a couple more updates to get to. But first, I got to tell you about PrizePicks and give them a sincere shout out and a thank you for sponsoring today's show. PrizePicks.com/CLNS is where you can go to get a $100 deposit match. And here's how daily fantasy works with PrizePicks. First, you got to know it's the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform. So you know their portfolio is wider than ever with tons of different options, which I love. So PrizePicks.com/CLNS and use that code CLNS. And this is pretty cool too. PrizePicks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for football games, basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half, not to worry. If he doesn't return in the second half, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an insurance policy. That's how you know it's the best. But for Sundays, here's my picks. Here's what I got rolling. Who's with me? Tua Tagovailoa, more passing yards, 272.5. I'm picking more. I mean, my goodness, the guy is one of the favorites to win the NFL MVP. You know he's throwing for more than 272.5. And Tyreek Hill, he's going to get in the end zone, so I'm picking more there as well. And that's how it works. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. You pick more or less on a player's projected stat line, and then the fun begins. The most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports is with PrizePicks. So go to PrizePicks.com/CLNS. That's promo code CLNS, and we'll put that link in the comments and the description as well, because we've got you covered. $100 deposit match because we love you and we appreciate your support of Dolphins Today at PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Now, this was a little bit unexpected for me to read, talking about some updated injury news and what's the latest, because Jaelan Phillips has been playing really well. But earlier this week in practice, he was kind of working through some things with some trainers off to the side, working on something that might have to do with a little bit of an ankle tweak from the game against the Kansas City Chiefs in Germany, working with trainers during practice this week. And that would be a huge, huge blow to the Dolphins defense, because Jaelan Phillips, like Bradley Chubb, both of them have played better and better as the season has gone on. And I think he's a pivotal part of the defense. The stats don't necessarily jump off the page at you, but those 6 quarterback hits, even if he's not getting to the quarterback every time, he's certainly getting in the face of the quarterback and bothering him. He's also drawn a number of penalties this year. He's a relentless pass rusher and can really play well on the edge and on the perimeter there with 33 tackles for the season. So Jaelan Phillips working through a little bit of an ankle tweak, and I don't think that he'll miss any time, but just something to be aware of as part of the Dolphins injury news and notes. A little bit more from Joe Shad on Twitter, one of the Dolphins beat writers, talking exactly what Jaelan Phillips said to the media earlier this week and talking about his mentality and how his confidence has grown. Jaelan was doubting himself earlier this season, and he said, quote, "It's crazy how much of an impact your mentality can have." And when talking about the way he used that mentality in his pursuit of being one of the best defensive ends in the National Football League, he talked about the importance of a positive mental attitude, and you can certainly see that reflected in his play. Entering the Eagles game, and of course with where with where Jaelan Phillips has been at in this league, you know that he's certainly capable of being a productive defensive end for this Miami Dolphins team. So show some love to Jaelan Phillips. Type 15 in the comments. We got his back. We love what he's doing for the Miami Dolphins and beyond. Spam those 1-5s and let them know that you got his back. Big fan of Jaelan Phillips. And when you combine with him with what Bradley Chubb's also been able to do, the production has been there all season, and they've been getting better and better, and they've been doing it for a while. Go back to 2022. These two were also a dynamic duo. That was the first year Bradley Chubb was with the Miami Dolphins, and Phillips was 61 tackles a year ago. You know, he's going to build on that season, and 7 sacks, where Bradley Chubb has 8 sacks. So together, the two of them are starting to be those edge rushers that can really impact a game and change the game, and helping this Miami Dolphins defense that continues to take steps forward. And as we've talked about before, Miami's not going to, their scoring average is not going to jump off the page at you, but 11th in total defense on the season. And it's been getting better and better under first-year defensive coordinator Vic Fangio. A lot of people have said his scheme is a little bit more complex. Took a little bit of time to be adapted and get acquainted with that scheme. And here you go. It's starting to really trend upwards as Miami has held 4 of their last 5 opponents to just 21 points or less. And they've been getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. They lead the NFL with 65 quarterback hits, and the 29 sacks are tied for the 4th most in the NFL. Very, very impressive there, because that's a crucial component to being a good defense, being able to get that pressure on the quarterback. So we've waited towards the end, because I know everybody wants to talk about the one and only DeVon Achane. He burst onto the scene. He's a rookie phenom. A lot of fantasy football owners out there miss him dearly because of the numbers he was putting up. And we all know his window to return is now open. That's a 21-day window, as he has returned to practice this week. And as for Mike McDaniel, he talked about DeVon Achane in his press conference earlier today, saying it feels like he's not a rookie anymore in the locker room. And that's what the locker room needed from him. You have no time for a rookie. So not even about his play on the field, but talking about how much of a leader he's been in the locker room and how quickly he's become adapted with the Miami Dolphins scheme, with the Miami Dolphins team, and everything that goes into being a productive contributor on the offensive side, in addition to the jaw-dropping statistics. A little bit more about DeVon Achane as he prepares and hopefully is able to play against the Raiders. He was spotted today at practice, but it was a non-padded practice. But this is good news. He didn't have a red non-contact jersey on or any sort of sleeve or brace on his knee. That's according to Marcel Louis-Jacques, one of the insiders for the Miami Dolphins. And DeVon Achane, in just 4 games, wow, he has been incredible. 460 yards, 5 touchdowns, 12.1 yards per carry. He's even had a couple of receiving touchdowns as well. He is a huge value add for this Miami Dolphins team. So I want you to put your prediction hat on, and you tell me, will DeVon Achane play against the Raiders? It's real simple. Type Y for yes or N for no. All right, last but certainly not least, I was, just doing some browsing and thought Mike McDaniel got to be one of the favorites for NFL Coach of the Year. It turns out he is not quite at the top of the list. So I thought, why not give the people a little rundown of some odds for that NFL Coach of the Year. And right now, leading that, meaning the most likely at plus 150 odds, is Dan Campbell, the head coach for the Detroit Lions. And what a season they're off to with just the 2 losses. And they've had a couple of dramatic victories. Got to give Dan Campbell and the Detroit Lions some credit there. And how about Demeco Ryans? We've been talking all about how improved that Texans team is. And Demeco Ryans in his first year at the helm is really impressive, and it helps when you have C.J. Stroud. But the Texans have really turned things around, and they've been one of the better teams in the National Football League. So he's getting some love for potential Coach of the Year. And there's Mike McDaniel at plus 600. Now, I think a lot of people early on the season got on the Dolphins bandwagon. They scored the 70 points against the Denver Broncos, and you thought, yeah, this team is going all the way. And I still think that. But obviously, water's found its level a little bit. They've cooled off. But if the Dolphins can, in the second half of the season, get back to that offensive prowess and those jaw-dropping numbers and being the greatest show on surf, I think Mike McDaniel has a chance to be the Coach of the Year. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, and that is why you subscribe to Dolphins Today. It's 100% free. It doesn't cost you anything to smash that sub button, and it helps us reach more and more Dolphins fans each and every day with daily content, daily videos, and of course, live shows and live watch parties. So do me a favor, do the bosses of Chat Sports a favor, and subscribe to Dolphins Today. We would certainly appreciate it. We thank you for tuning in on Dolphins Today.